Well, we are live.
Live-ish. You're going to see a recording. You'll see a recording of this. But you had some questions for me.
Yeah.
So
Couple of questions.
Let's do it. Let's do this.
We've had this conversation before off recording, and I think it'd be valuable not only to do a recording, but also to kind of go through strategy live, essentially.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So one of the things that I have seen, I want to challenge this, is, so there's different bidding strategies, right? You have cost per click, CPA, max conversions, all in each one of these ad platforms. And that's assuming that the algorithm is going to match up the result that you want, right?
Right.
Here's my question. So I ran a test the other day, and you know me, I'm always testing because that's essentially my job as a marketer is to test 24/7. I ran a test the other day, and I bidded for video views, but this is on Facebook.
Okay.
And I measured it against a traffic campaign where one objective you say, I'm looking for video views.
Okay.
The other one you say, I'm looking for traffic.
Traffic, and to clarify, traffic is page views, right?
Correct,
like someone clicks on the link, the page loads. That's the event that we're optimizing for.
Correct. And what I actually found was the video views campaign worked slightly better.
Oh, really?
Than the traffic.
Okay.
And here's the kicker: same ad copy, same audiences. So
interesting.
Yes. So nothing changed. The other variables were the same.
Worked better in what way? Like, what was your end goal?
The end goal was to see, like, the test was which one would be better to run, video views or traffic, to get to the page, right? One of them, you're looking for a higher watch through rate, right? Because if you bid for video views, you're getting higher watch through rates versus traffic. Based off this test, I saw deeper watch through rates and better click-through rates to the website versus the traffic campaign.
So when you say better, your definition of better is more people going to the landing page. You're not like adding to cart, purchasing.
Correct. Because this is to a blog post.
And then so it's to a blog post.
Yes.
And so your objective was to get people to hit that blog post.
Yes.
But then you told Facebook, on one campaign, I want the objective of video views.
Correct.
But that video has a link in it to go to the blog page. And then the second campaign was you told Facebook, I want people to go to the blog page.
Correct.
So, and then you measured which one actually got more people to the blog page.
Correct.
And the video views got more people to the blog page.
Yes. And so I don't know if that was just...
And they both ads were a video ad?
This literally the same.
Identical.
Like no difference and no change in work because they were existing posts. I just used existing posts.
Okay.
And so it made me think because then I did a dive into, well, what if you go to YouTube? YouTube ads. You can do essentially video views or web traffic clicks, whatever, right? And I looked at a couple clients that I'm running, and we were starting with video views, and their cost per clicks were basically the same as if you were bidding for like web traffic.
Oh, really?
Or CPA, but the CPMs, cost per 1,000 impressions, were lower
on the video view objective in YouTube.
In YouTube.
Okay.
This is where I was really trying to think, okay, the next test I'm running currently to see if there really is any difference is targeting the same audience, changing the bidding strategies, and see where the ads show up.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm testing where the ads show up is the hypothesis.
Okay.
Is if your targeting is what you want it to be, and you change bidding styles, is it really different to bid on one versus the other algorithm-wise?
Okay.
That's the question.
Okay.
Meaning, if I'm going after the same audience, I keep getting the same cost per clicks or maybe even cheaper on video view versus web traffic or CPA, then what is the difference of bidding one versus the other?
Okay.
And why would you why would it matter?
Yeah.
If you're bidding one versus the other.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the hypothesis.
Okay.
Here we go.
So I I have some thoughts. So a lot of people talk about algorithms, and we talk about algorithms a lot on here as well. And many of the people that talk about algorithms have never written an algorithm before.
I know I have.
Which is fine. Like, that's totally fine.
Yep.
But if you've written some code and sat down and thought, okay, I need to bang out some code that's going to take a few things into account and then provide a result. How do I do that? You've had to approach the problem a little bit different, and you have to have a better understanding of how algorithms can work. Now, I've never written an algorithm as complicated as
I don't think many
as
people
what
have.
Facebook and Google ad platforms have. I mean, they're literally taking thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of data points and running it through their machine learning to pop out, okay, here's the people that need to see this ad or whatever, right? But I have written algorithms before for some basic use cases, which I feel like gives me some unique perspective on how algorithms work, right? Because a lot of people, they're just like, well, I'm testing this and this and this, and then they say, this is how the algorithm works. And I'm like, well, maybe, but we've got to think about the decisions that coders were making and how they can detect data, right? So the very first thing, and we say this over and over and over again, is you've got to make it easy for the algorithm to make a decision.
Yep.
Okay. Because again, there's tens of thousands of data points. It's one of the reasons why if you have say you have a purchase conversion and it fires at the end of a big long funnel, right?
Yep.
You're doing the Russell Brunson ClickFunnels thing where they buy this thing, then there's a bump sale, and then there's an upsell offer and another upsell offer, and then and if they turn down this one, there's like another offer that's maybe a discount of one of the first offers, and all of this thing, and then they go through 6 or 7 steps, and then they purchase. And that's where the event fires. That's very difficult for any algorithm to determine what the hell happened here. Like because it's so far removed from the ad click or from a measurable ad event that there's so many places for the ball to get dropped.
Got it.
Right? And so one of the things, I think the easiest thing right now to say is, it's so much easier for Facebook, Google, whatever platform to measure events that happen inside their system as opposed to something that happens off their site. So like a page load, that happens off YouTube. You go to a different platform. Even if you're on your phone and you're inside the YouTube app, you're going to a separate web page. But if you're measuring a result that happens inside their platform, they have full access to that data. Even with iOS 14, right? Like iOS 14 is not going to block Facebook's ability to know how much of a video you watched inside of Facebook's app. Because when you install the app, you give that app permission to track these things, and iOS 14 can't block that, doesn't block that, right? And so whenever you have like a video view objective, it's so much easier for the algorithm to determine objective has been met. Which is why, in my opinion, you're going to always see lower CPMs.
Got it.
Now, we've talked about this before, and if you're thinking about this, you the listener, CPMs are essentially how you're charged. That is a very important metric. And the lower the CPM, it stands for cost per thousand views or impressions, right? The lower that CPM means you get more people to look at your ads for a lower cost. Therefore, you have more of an opportunity for clicks, more of an opportunity to determine that person's intention, all of those things. So I think the difference in CPMs is probably why you're getting cheaper cost per clicks and why you're getting more page views, because more people are actually seeing that. And I think that's probably most relevant inside of Facebook, because they were really destroyed with iOS 14 and now iOS 15. Google was like, we've been through this before. We got this, not a problem. But Facebook was absolutely destroyed. They were completely blindsided, right? And so I think that's probably why you're seeing the best results, and probably why you'll very likely continue to see better results in that.
Here's my question then. And maybe I have always looked at it incorrectly.
Okay.
Do you get a lesser quality audience bidding on different strategies? So, for example, let's say I'm going after the same audience.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that the algorithms would show, like, if I say video views versus purchase,
Mm-hmm.
does that just completely show it to a different audience? Almost like my mind in the past would think, well, if I do video views, it's essentially never going to show it to a buyer.
Right.
And if I do purchases, it's only going to show it to people who would buy.
Yeah. So this is how I look at it. When you set up targeting in any ad platform, it will give you an estimated audience size, right?
Yep.
So let's say you set up targeting several different interests, and Facebook says you have an audience size of 1 million people based on your parameters, right?
Yep.
And then you run 2 ads to the exact same thing with different objectives. One is a purchase objective, and one is, say, video views objective.
Yep.
Your budget is most people's budget probably isn't big enough to blow through 1 million people of that audience in 24 hours.
No.
It's just not, that's not going to happen. So part of what the algorithm does is it decides, okay, we've identified this audience based on the parameters you've set, but which people in that audience do we actually show it to?
Got it.
They don't just randomly pick people. They're trying to optimize. Like, they really do want to get you good results because they want you to keep spending money with them, right? And so I would guess that it's quite possible that they will show purchase objective campaigns to a different subset of that audience than a video view objective. And the reason is because one of the data points in there is that they're using as an algorithm is how likely is this person to make a purchase?
Got it.
How likely is this person to watch a video? And we all have slightly different behaviors on Facebook.
Yep.
And some people are more likely to watch 10, 15, 20 seconds, 5 minutes of a video.
Yep.
And some people are more likely to click on a button and add something to the cart and make a purchase. And so Facebook's going to say, well, this person feels like they're ready to make a purchase, so let's put it in front of them.
Got it.
And they're also like, well, this person is the kind of person that tends to like to watch videos, so let's put it in front of them. But I think there's a disconnect there.
Yeah.
Because I think it's much harder for an algorithm to say, this person seems like they're likely to make a purchase.
Yep.
I don't think that's an easy call for an algorithm to make.
Here's my argument.
Yeah.
Okay. Or my agreement on what you're saying.
Okay.
But an argument to the general marketing population.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you say then, if there's less data because of the privacy issues being fed back in,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't that mean that the algorithm has lost a significant amount of those end data points?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Especially on Facebook.
So, with that being said, wouldn't it be you should change your thought process
Mm-hmm.
with the changes that have happened?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of my thing is, I'm curious to actually, that just kind of sparked my curiosity because I was like, well, if you notice, like, if the algorithm or the data sets or whatever are just not as intelligent, and what is it, 80% has been taken away? Don't they say, like, automatically 80% is opted out?
Yeah.
Maybe even more.
Well, yeah, because iOS by default is opting out of ad tracking. So like, what is it? It's like, on my website, it's almost 90% of all traffic is mobile traffic these days.
Yep.
And the difference between iPhone and Android, it's probably 60% iPhone, 40% Android, depending on industry. Some industries are more, right?
Yep.
Like realtors, way higher on iPhone than Android.
Yep.
But developers maybe higher on Android so it kind of depends.
Yep.
But yeah. And by default, iOS 14 opted everyone out of ad tracking.
So wouldn't that make sense that if they've lost 80, because I'm making the assumption that we were all optimizing for these events in the past because of how powerful the data was, right?
Yeah.
But if you strip all that data away, would you be shortchanging yourself by optimizing for something that it only has 20 or 10% of?
Yeah.
Versus maybe something a little higher up.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. But here's the thing. Like, if you have a campaign with a purchase objective and it's working and it's profitable, don't turn that off based on what we're saying here. Like, that can work for you. A lot of this has to depend on aggregated data that you've obtained inside your ad account. That historical data is used to make decisions for your ad account or whatever. But if purchase events don't seem to be working, then you need to start reimagining how you're doing this. Start optimizing for events inside the Facebook app.
Got it.
And then find some sort of a way to follow up with some sort of a direct offer or whatever, right? So you might have to think of things in 2 stages. And this isn't a new concept. Like, this concept's been around for a long time, but it's probably more relevant now than it has been because a lot of those purchase events aren't getting reported back into Facebook.
So here's a question. So, like, I've seen with a lot of my clients that have, I guess you can call seasoned pixels, or they've got a lot of data. The end goal of purchase or lead works perfectly.
Yeah.
And that's because they have thousands and thousands of those events that have happened previously and even happen now. My question would be, what if someone has a brand new ad account?
Yeah.
I have heard opposing positions on this over and over again. And I'm curious on what your thought is, because my thought is, logically, if I have no data in an ad account, I should be starting at the highest level and then work your way down.
Yeah.
But then I hear, at least I don't know about you, but I hear from people that just say, always optimize for the bottom of the funnel, even on a brand new account.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I always agree with that.
Right.
And I've heard this from, like, legitimate people that I would consider good marketers. So I'm not saying they're completely wrong.
Yeah.
But it's an idea that I don't know if I 100% am on board with that.
So here's what I would say. I would say there's a lot of seasoned marketers out there, media buyers that are talented and really good at what they do, but they can still not have a great understanding of kind of the inner workings. The reality is Facebook and Google, they don't publish the details about how everything specifically works. They will publish some best practices and give you some concepts. That data and information tends to always be skewed towards making them money. So keep that in mind. So sometimes their best practices are best practices for them. And side note, how many times have you talked with, like, a Facebook, like, they'll reach out to you if you spend enough money. They'll reach out, hey, have a free consultation call. I do it every time. And every time I've had a call with them, I'm like, I'm pretty sure the information you're giving me is lining Facebook's pockets and not mine.
Well, to go into that, I don't know how many times. I actually instruct my clients, if you get reached out by a rep, run. Because I remember, I'm thinking of this one client where her ads were like, I'm talking absolutely crushing it on cold traffic. Spending, I want to say she was around $400 a day.
Okay.
$300 or $400. So not huge amounts, but also not tiny amounts.
Yeah, that's a significant amount for a lot of businesses,
And so she was spending that, and of course, Facebook calls, right? They reach out to her, they get on the phone call, and they tell her to change all of her bidding. And so she changed it, and the conversions just, like, stopped. Because of how she changed. They made their optimized for different things. And that was a big eye-opener for me. This happened a few years ago where I was like, oh, this is not good. Because several times when I talk to them, some of the advice that they give you doesn't feel like they know what they're talking. It feels like they're just randomly telling you anything. Or whatever the sales manager told them to say when you call everybody.
Well, I think the reality is if you're not spending serious money with Facebook, and when I say serious money, I'm talking like $10,000 a day plus, you're not getting someone who's on the phone with Facebook. You're not getting someone who's actually run serious ads. You're getting someone that's been through a 6 weeks training and they're regurgitating what they've heard. And that's fine.
I can
I'm not like,
that.
yeah,
I can attest to that.
And it's okay. Usually I take those calls because I want to pick their brain about something and see what they say. And I just have this morbid curiosity, like every time. But we kind of got off topic there. What were we talking about? So optimizing. Well, you said you've seen serious advertisers say you always optimize for the end result.
Yep.
So their line of thinking is essentially, it's like you always want to tell Facebook or Google exactly what you want, and that makes sense at a high level. Saying, I actually want purchases. Like I really do want that. So I want you to use your algorithm magic to find purchases. And I don't think that's entirely wrong. But if it's not working, it's not working. When the rubber meets the road and you launch that campaign and you're spending $100 a day and you're getting $20 in sales, that's not working. You can't keep up with that. And a lot of them, and I've talked, not a lot of them, I've heard some say, well, you just got to spend more. You got to lean into that spending. And I've tried that. And sometimes that works.
But not always.
But not always. And then you lose several $1,000s and you're thinking, okay, this is not working. So it's all about testing what's going to work for you, your ad creative, your audience. All of these things are completely unique. Even if you have a brand new account, your picture that you're using is probably unique. The ad copy you're using is unique. The landing page you're on, your cart software that you're using, all of those things are unique, and it means that your situation is unique. And so if you want to try testing something, bottom of the funnel, right on a brand new account, go for it. And if it works, run with that. But if it doesn't work, you need to turn that off. Don't spend more money, and then work on kind of building engagement audiences, and then retargeting those engagement audiences.
Well, this is where this stems from. So you hear, well, ad accounts are unique to your business, and I believe that, because it does learn who your customers are. So wouldn't you say if I'm going into a new ad account and it has nothing, and I tell it to get me a customer, but it literally has never had a purchase, then aren't we shooting blind? Because the flip side of that was, I hear they say, well, the algorithms have so much data on everyone else's ad account that they know how to put it in front of someone. But my question is, but do they really let's say I sell an $800 washer and dryer. How many $800 washer and dryer purchases do you think Facebook is really getting throughout the world on ads? Can't be much.
It can't be that many. That's a pretty unique offer. And so I would say that if your offer is in line with a lot of other people doing the same thing. So let's pick on realtors for a second. Like there's a lot of realtors out there. A lot of them use Facebook ads to get leads. It's a very short funnel, right? Like you can say, here's this house, check it out, give me a call, enter your email in this. You could even use the Facebook lead little tool or whatever. And that works for realtors partly because whenever they make a sale, their commissions are so big compared to their ad spend that it totally works. And if you have an offer like that, that's very similar to lots of other things out there, but unique because it's you and you're in this geographical area, I can see putting a purchase or putting that lead at that event, that objective at the end of the funnel. I can see that totally working on a brand new account right off the bat because of historical data from everybody. Like that's a very easy thing for the algorithm to say, to figure out. Like it's easy for them it's easy for the algorithm to see that I've been looking at every house that someone posts on Facebook, and I'm definitely in the market for a house. Like that is an easy thing for them to determine, and it's an easy funnel, and it's an easy event for them to track. And there's lots of people doing that kind of a strategy. That could totally work. But if you're selling something unique, like a course that covers something, or a membership like the SM3 membership that we do, those are definitely more unique things, and there's probably no historical data on other ad accounts relevant to that. So that's what I think.
And here's a thought that I'm curious about, which is, could you almost customize your ad account. Meaning, what if, okay, let me go backwards. When you talk about ad accounts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does an ad account, even if they don't get to your website, learn from video views and engagements and all of that? And does that store somewhere?
Yeah. So Facebook, I know for a fact that I've actually read this. They can track if you just stop scrolling and look at a post, even if it's not a video or whatever. They don't give marketers access to that data. They do give marketers access to video view data, like 10 seconds or 25%, 50%. They give access to that. They don't give access to the data of, I stopped and read this post.
Yep.
Right? They do give access to the data of someone hit the like button, or they made a comment, or engaged in some way, shape, or form. Or on Instagram, if they viewed my profile page, they give us access to that data. Oftentimes it's high-level access, but they let us target those people.
Got it.
But they know if I stopped scrolling and read something. They know if I opened the comment section and read some comments. They know if I know those people, and they use all of those data points to put something together. So they do learn a lot on your ad account, even if some people aren't clicking on the ads and going to something.
And they do they store this information for their own learning? Like, essentially what I'm saying is, do they tie that info, kind of like if you had 1,000 purchases last month, you know how it's like kind of in the ad account?
Yeah.
Does that ad account also store that information? Or does it only store the events like you tell it to based off of like view content, add to cart, purchase?
Yeah, so they don't publish this, but I'm very confident in saying that, yes, they do store all of that stuff. I mean, if you think about it, Facebook, specifically Google too, they are data brokers. Like, they're data collectors, data warehouse platforms. And they definitely store that. And they may aggregate that data a little bit, so they're not storing every single little data point, but they may kind of aggregate that into some collective internal data they can use for decisions. But they do store it. Again, they don't publish this, but I would be very surprised if they didn't store that and relate that to your ad account.
Got it. Okay, because in my head I'm structuring a strategy of like, so you could take an ad account and almost customize that ad account early on, like a brand new one. You could train it up like an employee and show it and start with, here's some, engagement, video views, clicks, blah, 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 then landing page views, and then view content, and all the way to the purchase. And if you're patient enough, in my opinion, wouldn't that be the most cost-effective and more customized approach than, because here's what I've seen before with new ad accounts. I'm thinking of this one particular ad account I remember when I first launched. We were going after purchases, and I was almost getting no clicks on the ad. Same ad. So remember, anytime I test thing, it's with the same exact thing, same audience. You would almost get no clicks, no engagements, no anything. I took the same ad, post ID, moved it into a view content, suddenly started getting a lot more clicks, engagements, and people even moved down closer to purchase versus starting out to purchase. That was like one of the first times I was like, that's interesting. It's the same audience, same ad, nothing has changed. But when I told it to get a purchase, nothing happened.
And I'm gonna guess, you didn't say this, but I'm guessing the CPMs were way lower on the view content.
Yes, way lower.
Yep. See, and that's the other thing, right? Like, a lot of companies out there with a lot of data in their ad account are optimizing for purchase because it's working for them. They've put that time in. But those are more expensive eyeballs. Because it's harder for Facebook to determine who clearly fits in that group, number one. And number two, they're a more valuable set of eyeballs, right? And so you're going to be bidding against people with bigger budgets when you optimize for purchase. Which, again, if you're optimizing for purchase and you're getting a 2x or 3x return on cold traffic, like, keep doing that. But if you're optimizing for purchase and you're not, then we gotta rethink that. The eyeballs for view content or whatever, those are going to be cheaper eyeballs to get to take action. And some people interpret that as a lower intent audience. Which you'll hear a lot of advertisers talk about their lower intent audiences. But the reality is oftentimes they're lower intent simply because Facebook can't determine what their intent is.
Got it.
They haven't done the things to give Facebook a clear idea of what their intent is. And with the right message, the right hook, all of these things we've talked about, where you're still talking to people, even though we're using algorithm, with the right hook and the right message and everything, you can
make that work
and determine that intent for yourself through actual conversions.
Remember over the summer I shared with you how I had a client that, I think it was over last summer, where I said, we're actually optimizing. We had multiple objectives that we're going after, right? But I had shared with you that one of the campaigns was the objective was view content, and it was actually getting purchases for the same cost as my purchase objective. Right. Which that through another like that's interesting because the view content, which is considered, and the CPMs are way lower, is always, not always, but mentioned many times from other marketers saying, you don't ever really want to optimize for that because they're lower quality eyeballs.
Right.
That's essentially what they're implying. But the data in this account was showing otherwise. And so I was like, I don't know. In my mind, I've always interpreted, if an account is maybe early on or whatever, it's better to go after that anyways because it's going to be cheaper. Because the other thing that you want, I think, for you is you want to keep in mind of what stage is the person giving you the advice in.
Definitely. I was going to bring up that too,
Because one thing that I have started to challenge a little bit is the people that give a lot of the advice, they are by no means purposely trying to misdirect you. They're only speaking from their current spend, right? Some of these companies are spending $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $10,000 a day. You're going to do things a lot differently. It's kind of like if the CEO of Coca-Cola gave you advice on how to grow a business. It's almost like not applicable to you if you're started yesterday.
Right, yeah. The CEO of Coca-Cola could come in and be like, okay, we've got this, I don't know, craft store where you can buy like rubber stamps and things, and we're going to take this multinational. They're probably not going to do a very good job at that.
No.
And that's the same thing. So you get a lot of these these gurus, and many of them have good information, right? Like I
good
get
intent.
that, and good intent. Like they're not trying to screw you over, but many of them will say things like, this is what I did in spending over $2 million in ads.
Yes.
But if you're only spending $10 a day, your strategies are totally different.
That's
totally
my
different.
point.
Let me ask you this, though. I want to circle back to what you're saying. You had the purchase event over the summer and the view content event, and they were getting you similar purchase results.
Yes. Cost per purchase
results. Let me ask you, in your opinion, which of those campaigns would be more valuable in the long run?
In your eyes?
Run? Yeah.
In my opinion, which is going to go against everyone's opinion, I believe, the view content one, to me, because it's going to be a bigger audience. It's going to be a bigger audience. I could feed it more data faster. It can optimize quicker. That's just my opinion, though.
No, I would agree with you on that. And that's why I brought that up, because a lot of people say, cool, well, these are both working, so we'll shut off the view content because we're going to go just for purchase because that's what these guys are saying. And it's working. But I would say the view content is probably going to get you more consistent results. Like you and I've run into this with purchase conversions. Sometimes it's over the place. Whereas if you're optimizing for something else, sometimes it's way, way, way more consistent because you're using bigger, your CPMs are lower, so you're in front of way more people. So statistically, it should smooth a lot of those things out. And you're creating retargeting audiences that are much larger that you can then retarget. And you and I both know this. Oftentimes, you're initial cold traffic audiences, you'll get maybe a 1x return on your ROAS, sometimes a little less, whatever, sometimes 2x, like if you've got a cool offer or whatever. But then your retargeting ads will get 5, 6, 7, 10x return on your ROAS, and that's where all the magic happens. So if you can create that retargeting audience for cheaper, and you're getting sales, I think that audience is bigger, and then you just launch a retargeting campaign.
Funny follow up to that. That client forced me to turn off the view content. Like maybe back in September, or whatever. Because they heard some other guru say you should only do purchases, right? And so we turned it off, and their sales tanked. And now we have to rebuild it back up. And that basically is the data right there. It shows you. We were getting that cost per purchase. It was working fine. Having the view content was in there. But once again, maybe a well-intended guru mentioned for them to only optimize for purchase and get rid of the view content. They basically strong-armed me to turn it off, even though I didn't. And then they saw an immediate drop in sales.
So let me ask you this: you had were you still running both the purchase and the view content?
Yes.
You shut off the view content and you saw a drop in sales. Did you see a decrease in performance on the purchase?
Yes. We did.
So it's almost like the purchase campaign was being propped up by the view content campaign, because Facebook was basically stealing data from the view content campaign to determine who had the proper purchase intent.
Correct.
So it was essentially an unintentional, maybe retargeting campaign is what might have been happening.
Remember, we talked about this where we run side-by-side campaigns with different objectives, and that they seem to give more signals and feed off each other.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing, because you're simultaneously growing those retargeting audiences while giving the machine enough data consistently to actually optimize, versus when you do the purchase and you don't run into this as much into lead generation, because lead generation is easier.
It's a pretty easy conversion.
But when you're asking people to pay money right away, you get a lot more fluctuations in your results with the cost of purchase, where one day it would be $15 a purchase for 3 or 4 days, and then another day it's $68. And then another day it's 13, and then it's 54.
And I've been there before, and that is frustrating.
It drives you crazy.
That's the stuff. That's the stuff that keeps you up at night. And that's the stuff where as soon as you wake up in the morning, you're checking your ad account to see where you're at that day, and that is frustrating.
Well, it goes up and down, and I think one of the thoughts when I set up that side-by-side campaign was, well, what would happen if I feed enough data constantly to stabilize the account? And that's one of my theories on why, while those were running side by side, we almost never had a jump. And I think it's because of what you're saying. It's stealing from the other campaign, and it's able to maintain that level of performance each and every day.
Well, and traditional advertising wisdom with Facebook specifically was you don't want overlapping audiences. And every Facebook ad rep will tell you that, and they'll say, "Oh, you're stealing from."
I'm currently running overlap right now. It's working very well. And I'm doing it on purpose.
And
I'm purposely doing it.
I think the only time that matters is when you're using big budgets. Right? Like if you're spending maybe $1,000 a day, $2,000 a day, you might run into where you need to stop overlapping audiences, especially if your audience isn't super big. But you can actually, a lot of people don't know this, you can actually hop into Facebook, I can't remember where it's at, but you can see how much you're overlapping on those audiences and make that determination. The reality is on smaller spends, a few $100s a day or whatever, your audience size is so big that even if it's like a million person audience, oftentimes we're targeting 2 million, 3 million person audience. You're not going to overlap in a way that's going to make you make an impact or waste your money, right?
It's overly. I think it's like, what is it? Like an over exaggeration, of the overlap, because. I have found, even with clients spending just $200 or $300 a day, I don't think overlap becomes a problem until you even hit 1,000.
Right.
So that doesn't apply to most advertisers.
A lot of businesses will never go past $1,000 a day because they simply just don't need to. Like you think about, I saw some ads for a roofing company, right? And we've talked about roofing companies before. I had my roof redone a few years ago because it was damaged in a hailstorm, and the bill was $25,000 or something like that, right? They don't need to spend $2,000 a day to get roofing clients, right? They can spend $200 a day and be profitable all day long, all day long, every day at $200 a day, and no need to spend more than that because they can get more work than their crews can accomplish in any given amount of time.
Well, and you bring up a good point too of strategy, because what I do think when we make these podcasts, my intent. We've actually never really had this conversation. But the intent is to help more of the early stage to mid stage advertiser. Right. So I want to speak almost in those terminologies to help that person either start and get going, or if they're getting going, where to go. I don't necessarily intend to try to reach the $10,000 a day spend person, right?
You don't expect McDonald's to reach out to you and say, "Hey, Greg, I was listening to your podcast about advertising. We're spending $100,000 a day. How can we optimize that?"
Exactly. I'm not intending for that particular audience, because at that point, they're typically not the audience that needs help, right? The person who needs help is the person that's starter to mid-tier and how to grow that to be a profitable business.
Right. And I would even say at that point, they kind of maybe don't even care about results. Like they're so big and they're so big, and it's like, we have a marketing department and we have a marketing budget. Let's spend it on ads, and we'll run some reports to show that we've done some stuff. But the reality is they're making money regardless. And so they they don't need to know the nitty gritty details because they're all getting their paycheck and going home at the end of the day anyway.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because they have an ad budget. They just need to spend it. So they're not really worried about
their job is to spend that ad budget and make it look like they're doing something. I've worked in corporate before. That's really what most corporate jobs are, is to make it seem like to whoever it matters above you that you're doing your job.
So I think that's what our podcast is all about, is helping that person that's from the start to mid-level tier that, we could almost put a number to it as far as running paid traffic. We could almost say the person that wants to get up to $1,000 a day.
Profitably.
Up to $1,000 a day profitably, making that work. Past that, I think that's a different audience. That, they're obviously, they know these standards, or they wouldn't get to $1,000 a day.
And that's something we could speak to past to that.
Absolutely. Of course.
A bit, right? But a lot of the principles, if you're spending $1,000 a day profitably, you've already kind of worked out what's working for your ad account.
So that's kind of the target person that we really want to serve. So,
well, Greg, we ought to wrap this up. This is one of our longer episodes. I'm just looking at the timer right here, and but I think this has been a really interesting one to go over, and it's something I feel like a lot of media buyers need to have a better understanding of. Because it's very easy to just kind of throw stuff out there and see what sticks without having an understanding of sending the right signals to the ad platform, what the differences are and the nuances for a brand new account versus one that has conversions. We didn't talk about this a whole lot, but versus one that has like messy data. Right? They've run all these different offers that are not related at all, and now we've got some messy data.
Run into those.
Definitely. Since we didn't really talk about that, I would kind of treat that like a new ad account. Is what I would do, and I'd kind of start from the beginning and go from there, and then try to keep all the offers in line. And go from there. But so let's wrap this up. Greg.
Well, if you want to reach out to me, book a free strategy session, go to gregmarshall.co. And Blake?
BlakeBuse.com. There's the SM3 group in there on social media marketing, organic and paid. Hop in there, check that out.
Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.